Perché era qui. No, già è tutto fatto.
Senti, ma la finisce a giocare con questo? Dai, inizia.
No, sto mettendo il link. Un attimo solo.
Come un bambino.
Non sto giocando.
Piccolo,
Un minuto iniziamo. Allora. Finito? Ok. Bene, va bene. Allora, Marco? Ok, grazie.
Thank you. Good afternoon. So now let's resume with the afternoon session. We're almost on time. This is another interesting session. Before giving the floor to Mr. Jesse Marsh, who is the advisor for the MD.NET project of the municipality of Caltanissetta, who will talk about a number of proposals. I would like to thank all the participants here and the speakers for the afternoon session. As usual, I will make a brief overview of what we've talked about today. We are here to present the MD.NET project, which is a Euro-Mediterranean partnership with the municipality of Caltanissetta being the lead partner. Our partners are following us online thanks to simultaneous interpreting. We will meet again next Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. I'm going to give you some information on the park, the project we are implementing, the first park of the Mediterranean lifestyle. It's an economic project to promote good jobs, good income and it is a way to fight unemployment. This has been a major problem, especially in the central areas of Sicily, but also in some urban areas. Just to give you some information, more than 400,000 Sicilians left the island, and the number will further increase because there are actually a lot of people who are registered as living in Sicily, but actually live in other parts of Italy and abroad. And so this is really emergency which the park tries to tackle. There have been a number of crises, the first rural crisis, then the crisis of the mining industry. Caltanissetta was one of the capitals for sulfur production. Then there was the oil crisis. Some attempts were made at exploiting oil resources. Then there was the building crisis, and then the industrial crisis of the of post-World War II. So the situation is very difficult, and we have to design a new development model starting from central Sicily to the rest of Sicily. We clearly need to improve the situation in the whole of Sicily and southern Italy in general. So what we want to do is to promote a new development model based on a new lifestyle. I think we need to invest in a new lifestyle, more human, more community-based, healthier lifestyle based on the principle, on the Latin principle, mens sana in corpore sana. So we want to invest in good food, healthy food. The park is also an integrated system of slow trails, of Mediterranean diet, Mediterranean diet restaurants, and also with the promotion of small ancient towns, castles. The park is a project that involves several municipalities. So we are, so it includes more than 150 municipalities for more than 1.5 million inhabitants. The park is an integrated project because it is based on 3 pillars, which are equally important. Undertakings, so we need to involve private undertakings, but there is also the public sector. We have 106 municipalities which already signed the partnership to join the park. And then there is there are the small craftsmen and producers of civil economy. And this is the community of what we call the Mediterranean lifestyle. The new founding dimension of the park is integral economy. So we want to work with all undertakings. We want to invest in integral ecology, starting from good agriculture. That's why this morning we had the speech by Professor Butera, Professor Emeritus of the Polytechnical University of Milan. We have 3 pillars. First, the UNESCO decisions to protect Mediterranean lifestyle and the Mediterranean diet as an intangible world heritage. Then there is the encyclical Laudato Si by Pope Francis. Yesterday we heard the Bishop of Caltanissetta with a beautiful speech, and then there's another pillar is the Terra Madre movement founded by Carlo Petrini, and we are using a number of supporting tools. First, we mobilize the skills, know-how, which are well represented here by the speakers we invited here. We are also promoting networking of all the stakeholders and using all the financial tools we have. Yesterday, we hosted the mayor of Campo di Pietra in the Molise region, which we took as an example because it is a quite successful project. And then we can also rely on the regional plans until 2021 and the National Resilience and Recovery Plan. We are trying to make the most of the existing skills and know-how, but we also need the right organizational structure and the legal structure for the park, because it is now important to create an entity that could encompass the three pillars which I mentioned: the public sector, the private sector, and the third sector. All of these entities need to work together to implement this project, which has been designed for the future of our children. Um, there are associations which have been involved. There is a community-based approach which makes it possible to bring together the three pillars which I mentioned. And we're also going to make the most of all the opportunities. And to conclude, I would like to tell you that first, during these days, we want to present the park project thanks to the help of the distinguished speakers we invited. And secondly, we want to analyze the 5 dimensions of the park. Yesterday, we started with the governance system for the new legal entity. This morning, we talked about requirements to join the park, and also the standards which we need to implement to attract the world. On Thursday, the 2nd, we will talk about ourselves, our own lifestyle, the Mediterranean lifestyle. On Friday, we will talk about enhancement promotion of intangible heritage and high quality local products. And in the final day of this big event celebrating this partnership, we're going to talk about how it will focus on training in the field of Mediterranean lifestyle, because now we need to train the community, we need to train individuals towards this new development model. Now, I won't take any more time. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Jesse Marsh, who will illustrate the project MD.net. And I would like to thank the whole team from MD.net for organizing, for the hard work organizing the 5 days. And I'm going to warn you, it's going to get even worse. You'll have to work even harder. Good afternoon. Thank you. Thank you for this opportunity. In fact, we're going to present the MD.net project next week. But as the councillor said, I'm a member of the working group, and I'd like to share some observations with you about what we're doing in the framework of the project concerning accreditation. I kindly ask the technicians to share my presentation. The topic is how to protect Mediterranean lifestyle. Protecting or promoting a lifestyle may sound easy, but it is actually very complicated and complex, because lifestyle is not something that you can display and put on display in a museum. What is this? You know it very well. We also had it at lunch, but If the people from Greece, Cyprus, Malta see this slide, they don't know what this is. We know what that is. This is caponata, and then they will look up on Google caponata, and they will find these images, but the images are all different. So what is a caponata? Now, you know when that is no longer the real caponata, because every grandmother made a different caponata, but they were still caponata. This morning we heard about what makes a dog a dog. So I saw caponata sold in many different ways in a box, in a package. But what is caponata actually? It is everything that comes before taking that picture. And that is exactly what the UNESCO defines as intangible heritage. This is the definition of the UNESCO Convention on Intangible Cultural Heritage. So it's something that should be alive. It is not an object. And then there is a list of things that we know, like traditions or expressions, which we might also call lifestyle. Now, this is intangible culture. According to the UNESCO, this intangible heritage also has a social and economic value, but we are facing a challenge towards the evolution to a circular economy, which will actually be very different from what we have today. So intangible culture is what can help us at an anthropological level to recreate, redesign our society if we remember what intangible culture is. Of course, I am referring to Mediterranean culture, Mediterranean lifestyle. Now, we cannot underestimate the importance of cultural heritage, but it is very difficult to imagine how to protect it. Here are three aspects of intangible culture. Well, first, it is intangible. So how can you define it? How can you protect it? How can you ensure its survival? It's not the same as with the monument, with the work of art. It is something that is hard to grasp. Then it has an enormous amount of variability. I mean, how can you define what is the real caponata? There are different versions of caponata. And then there's the bond with the community. Now, in Sicily, we know what caponata is. Someone from California does not. So they may accept something as caponata, which for a Sicilian would not. So it is quite complicated and complex to define what caponata is. And this morning we heard a lot about certifications, but there are some limits. There is the protected geographical indication, the protected designation of origin. What do you find in oil bottles, which guarantee to consumers that that oil is authentic. But certifications are important, but they're not enough, because certifications only focus on the tangible aspect, but not on the intangible one. Certifications follow rules with the top-to-down approach. So something that is decided in Brussels, in Rome, and then I just have to comply with the rules, with the specifications. But the real point about something like Caponata is outside all of these tangible aspects. Now, these certifications only define Sicily on a map as a geographical entity, but that's not the lifestyle of Sicily. Certifications, so certifications are outside the context, and they're very expensive. As far as I know, you have to pay for a lot for the procedures, you have to pay for a consultant. It is also a very slow process. So a lot of people, such as Beppe De Santis' grandmother, are cut out of this process, even if she can cook a wonderful caponata. So we are actually losing the real importance of lifestyle. And then certifications can very easily be influenced by lobbies. That's a very delicate point, which I'm not going to dwell upon, but you all know about it. What I would like to present is a different system. How can I how can I prove to a consumer that what I do is genuine, that what I'm doing is something well done without a certification process? Well, you can have the so-called peer-based guarantee system. So it's the peers that judge. So maybe the farmers next door judge and participate in this system to ensure quality. Both the farmer and I have a shared interest, and we all want everyone to comply with the rules, with the right procedures, because otherwise we would all be penalized. It is enough for one not to act properly to penalize everyone else. So this peer-based system is the best way to ensure compliance with the rules that are decided together. What are the advantages of this system? It is an accreditation system rather than a certification system. So it is people-oriented, and it focuses on organizations than on what organizations do. So it focuses on people, on what your grandmother does when she cooks caponata. And then it is a system that is based on best practices, on practice standards. So it is more important to say that I want to be sustainable rather than I have complied with a certain regulation, EU regulation. This morning, someone said, either you're with us or you're against us. So actually, it is the community that is at the heart of the system. So the community strengthens the system. And this peer-based system is accessible. You don't need a lot of money to be certified. I just come to visit your grandmother and I eat caponata, that's it. And then the system is flexible. Maybe someone cooks caponata in an innovative way, and that's acceptable. Maybe it doesn't follow the standards, it doesn't follow the recipe which was approved in Brussels, but if it's good and we agree that that's caponata, then that's good. Well, of course, it needs to be done in good faith. And this is something that a certification system will never accept. Let's make a few examples. There is an international network of organic farmers, an organization called IFOAM, which promotes a number of projects around the world. I found 223 initiatives in 76 countries. In this case, practices are shared. There are 4 initiatives in Italy, Brianza, Parma, and 2 in Lazio. But actually, there are a lot around the world. As you can see, this entity is also supported by the FAO. Then there's the World Fair Trade Organization. It is something similar where shared values are very important, and it is something that is very difficult to describe through specific regulations. This provides a label. It is a centralized organization which manages an accreditation system, which is very interesting, based on multiple levels. There are almost 500 local organizations participating in the WFTO. Actually, you can find the logo in a lot of products, such as some coffee. And here are the 10 principles established by the WFTO. I'm not going into the details, but the most important ones are transparency, non-discrimination, no child exploitation, as well as environmental sustainability, of course. And let me quote another example, Horizon project, which I helped coordinate. Just to give you an idea of that this methodology can be applied to different sectors. This is a project concerning the textile and clothing field. The idea here was to promote an evolution towards sustainable fashion. In this field as well, there is a lot of greenwashing. So just claiming that you're green, but actually it's a lot of talk without many facts. And in this case, we created a network of laboratories and companies. So it is something feasible that strengthens the local community and the more general network. It's a win-win situation. We should create a lot of Mediterranean parks in the region because they would reinforce each other and they would help promote the principles we are talking about today. Now, let me be a bit provocative. In our working group, we are discussing the three aspects of lifestyle which are a bit problematic. First, the fact that a lifestyle is intangible, but actually you can move the emphasis from the product to the producer. And we can apply a number of homogeneous criteria to producers, even if they make different products. Then there is multiplicity, which can be turned into a benefit, into an advantage, because it shows how flexible and how authentic Caponata is. And then the sense of, and the community knows how to recognize the real Caponata from the fake Caponata. And then there's the bond with the local region, which is also an advantage, because the stronger the bond, the more it is embedded. So something intangible really becomes part of a body, in this case, the local region, the local community. And in this way, you can reinforce the identity of a specific community, and the stronger the sense of identity becomes. In order to be able to maintain this bottom-up spirit, we need a multi-level organization. This is something you need to make attempts, for which you need to make attempts in order to find the right balance. The core of this principle is relying on nodes that know what Caponata is. I keep on talking about Caponata, but of course, you may have different levels, but I'm using the example of the Caponata just to simplify things. So let's focus on this network node. Now, what are we talking about? This morning, I heard about many possible nodes, such as GAL, the local action groups, a consortium of municipalities, a university. Anyone might act as a node. There is no exclusiveness, but what's important is that the node must be able to represent a local community. So it must be able to communicate with the rest of the network, and it should create linkages between the local community in Sicily and our partners in Cyprus, Malta, etc. So the node doesn't necessarily have to explain how to cook caponata, but rather that caponata exists and what role it has. So the node must take part in the definition of the rules. This is very important because in Cyprus, they have something equivalent to caponata. I know they have a wonderful kind of cheese, and they know when that is the right cheese or not, but I cannot. So if they tell me, oh, that producer makes the right cheese, I believe them. I have to trust them, and they have to trust me when I tell them that my grandmother cooks the best caponata, the real caponata. So we need to trust each other, and in this kind of network, we can then make another step forward. Now, let me add a fourth pillar, research. In an initiative like ours, research plays a key role. The attitude of researchers is fundamental. It may be scientific, biological research, but it may also be anthropological research. Painting is a form of research. Research should give vitality to this kind of projects. We need to be aware of what we're doing, and that's the role of research. Now, we have already mentioned the other pillars. This is the so-called quadruple helix, but a node may be played by one of these four entities, but that node must be able to promote a partnership. So the node may be an environmental association, but they need to collaborate with university for research and private and public institutions. So how can I assess whether a node is the right node? The community is important, but also the network. If I have to assess a new network in Cyprus, I must have some criteria going beyond the recipe of caponata. I need to understand the intrinsic properties. And here are three basic criteria for the accreditation of a node. Coherence. That is, you must have a Mediterranean lifestyle. I mean, a Finnish man or woman may be nice, but they're not Mediterranean. Then activity, there must be a degree of involvement, of engagement in order to promote awareness of intangible heritage. Everyone must play its part in it. And this comes from vision and the application of the vision to the specificity of the community. So we go from the shared common dimension to the local dimension. What is a canvas? You might be familiar with the business model called Canvas. It is a scheme which attempts at creating a grid. That is, it defines something on the basis of certain characteristics. And that's how the criteria are then defined into something practical. Let's think about coherence. On a canvas, on an imaginary canvas, let's talk about a potential node. Let's pretend we want to apply as a node. Well, I need to describe my region, my territory, the geography, the landscape, the unique elements that characterize it. So I must be aware of the main elements of the intangible cultural heritage. So everything that may end up under my management. It is important to know the socio-economic demographical profile. So I need to know whether the people are well educated, rich, poor, what are the raw materials, so to say, on which I'm working. I also need to know the main challenges I'm facing, because otherwise someone from Cyprus may not understand. I need to explain what our challenges are. And then we also need to know the political instruments at the local and regional level, which can be used in my territory for a development strategy. Then I would have to list the activities and services which I provide or I would like to provide, the physical and human resources I have available, the main activities that I want to organize, workshops, festivals, how I want to involve the community. This is a crucial aspect. There are some professional figures who are specialized in uh, promoting the involvement of communities, the engagement of communities rather. So, so do you have these professional skills? And if not, where are you looking for them and what is your attitude? Then I also need to define the networking activities and the networking culture. How do you create networks? Which networks do you already participate in? Maybe if you think about it, you could end up with a longer list than what you believe. At the Mediterranean level, you may be members of the same networks without being aware of it, or other partners might participate in networks that may be of interest to you. And this is something very important. And finally, what kind of services do you provide to help develop companies? This is essential.
Do you think are strategic sectors? What do you think our priorities are? Is there any sort of coherence between sectors to invest on? What is the approach we should choose? What kind of mechanism do you consider most appropriate? And how are you aligned and compliant with the policies? This takes us back to the importance of policies, not politics, but policy. The importance of such initiatives related to policies when it comes to circular economy and ecological transition. We should not talk about electrical vehicles. We should rather focus on these topics. We should analyze these policies in a very careful way. If you are able to interpret certain questions, you will also be able to figure out what the answers are. This is a canvas. Maybe a park in Sicily may have 5 or even 10 nodes. There are places where people can go and feel inside the park. There is a lot to know about intangible culture, which should be found out little by little. Each of us should deeply analyze such aspects and compare them with those of the Cypriots, of the Malta people, and figure out what the right answers our questions are, what we may take from the others, and what we have in common with others. Maybe aspects that may seem weird to us. Eventually, I'd like to take a look at some other aspects maybe you're hoping that someone will clarify certain doubts. You have your own jobs. Some are taxi drivers, some are farmers, but there's no immaterial culture without a proper name. Even parishes, volunteer groups, associations producing products, services, and initiatives as well. One of the main functions of a node is that of accrediting these associations, these stakeholders. But what are the criteria that should be applied to the single winemaker? Can they be the same criteria applied by the Cypriots, by the Greek? If it is so, it means we will have managed to create a true network and be comparable to a cheese producer from Greece. This means that we will have managed to create a grid and network within which communication and dialogues and the sense of sharing of shared things work perfectly. What can a single producer make other than making bread, for instance? But the point is what the person, him or herself, can do. They are the real culture bearers. And so are their nieces and nephews and the great children. So it is important to act rightly. Co-producing their own product or service along with the territory and the community. And this is fundamental. That means that if I have my own olive trees and I produce olive oil, it is not only me who produces the olive oil, but it's my land. I am a co-producer because I'm producing it with my land. This means this is what co-producing means. I produce culture, territorial culture, and I want to protect it. If I cannot survive selling olive oil, co-producing it with my territory, I'm not protecting immaterial culture, really. Eventually, I myself as an olive oil producer or a pasta or a tomato maker producer, I cannot be the only one. I need somebody else. I need the others. It is a collective action. It is not a shopping list. And this is not easy. We may identify some recipients for these initiatives. We may launch some initiatives within such groups. Let's get back to criteria. We apply the same criteria, but they are articulated in a slightly different way. However, here are some issues and questions that I'd like to present to you concerning coherence. We need some classifications. I've seen that UNESCO is in trouble because it tries to classify only the material aspects, whereas I'd like a bottom-up approach. What can we do? Let's draw a to-do list and see what we can do. Maybe we need a sort of a roadmap, a universe of constellations rather than a true classification, but we need relations to explain such criteria. How can we be sure that our product is integrated within the territory? What are the activities involved? We should probably organize some initiatives promoting our products. Maybe the olive oil, we may invite a Cypriot to Sicily and show him or her how we produce olive oil. We may organize educational trips for schools and students. We should take the immaterial aspects out of our products. And what is our vision? I believe that each operator has his or her own vision. And it is a complex and rich and diverse idea. I stole this slide from Professor Butera. I'm sorry that he had to leave. We've used a range of values which Professor Butera mentioned earlier this morning. He mentioned a list of values. It's okay to take into account pressing organoleptic properties and so far and so forth, but can we affirm this is fair, this is fundamental, that this is important? Maybe these are the types of guarantees that we're looking for, and the awareness of the limits of environmental interconnections. Please check out this slide. This may be the turning point for an accreditation procedure. These are the right criteria we should take into account. Sobriety and all of them. To conclude, EDNet project will be presented next week. We share the idea that first of all, we may visit the link, which may also be posted on our Facebook page, and then we may subscribe this declaration, because it is important to start from a first step based on the right values that should be shared across the Mediterranean area. To conclude, the protection of a lifestyle means making that pattern a real model for our society. We do not know what that really is, but if this lifestyle is more sustainable from the economical and environmental point of view, then we have managed to protect the lifestyle itself. People who come here should fall in love with our country, and they should uh, so to decide to move here and protect their lifestyle. This morning, someone said that children do not remain here unless we turn our region into a Milan, into a London, into a larger city. We need to figure out and to think of about creating networks like the Mediterranean network related to this project. And this project makes us really think of networks. We need a network, and not just in a certain neighborhood of Caltanissetta. We should think of a peer network system, including people who mutually support with each other, support themselves. Thank you very much. Thank you, Joseph, for your presentation. I believe that you all know Jess, and he has been working for over 10 years on creating networks. He's Sicilian American personality. Is he has been working hard, is going to present his project specifically, and he gave us a great contribution. Let's try to take into serious account the final slide that he showed, the slide by Professor Butera, and we will really focus on some details which you explained. This idea has been already taken into account in other Mediterranean areas. This is not small things. We should take into serious account these aspects. Thank you very much. This slide will soon be shared through social networks. So we need to cooperate all together. We are working for 5 days within 10 seminars. We're going to meet several people. I was so happy to be with Federico Butera yesterday night. He promised that he would keep contributing to our projects and ideas through his books and works, especially in during this difficult time of a pandemics. So the old civilization is over. Therefore, we need start over again, especially with regard to the industrial agriculture. But we need to do this with a raised awareness. Now, I'm speaking as a citizen. First of all, we're going to invite some experts in this field because the issues related to farmers and agriculture have never been understood. Therefore, we need new personalities. We need to acquire new skills and become more aware. Just will keep starting your slides. Okay. The MDNet project is the international representation of a park within a larger system, which is the Euro-Mediterranean system. We're lucky to be the leaders of this project and to be promoters of this park. The most relevant presentation is that of Professor Butera of this. So we should take into account his slides and his book. So please do not miss Butera's presentation. I'd like to invite Giuseppe Catania to come to the stage, who is the mayor of the municipality of Butera. Mr. Ivacigna, president of Lega Ambiente Caltanissetta, Mr. Alfonso Zagarella, vice president of the association Paesaggi di Mezzo, Mr. Michiche, president of the Proloco of Caltanissetta, and Mrs. Corrado from Greenway. And there are some other guests connected remotely as well. Can you please share the screen? Mr. Francesco Cancellieri. Cancellieri is the president of Associa Messina APS. Good afternoon. And Mr. Totti Piscopo of Travel Nonstop. Totti, are you there? Sorry, we can't hear you. I can also see Mrs. Susanna Cristina, president of Corai Territory Development and Culture, as well as Nino Messina from ATS Sicily Island. Mr. Carmelo Nicotra from Caltagirone, from the Wheat Cropping Experimental Consortium for Sicily of Caltagirone. Good afternoon, Giovanni. Thank you very much for your introduction. I'm currently connected. If the connection is not working, I will move to my office. Mrs. Laura Mello, president of the Via dei Tesori Association. They will be here in a few minutes. We've taken Professor Butera, we've used his extraordinary book, which is a sort of a Bible, and which includes the genetic features of the spark. Also discussed all of the forms of certifications. We've tried to basically create a partnership and acquire some technical skills and knowledge. But this is not enough. It is not enough to say, okay, let's protect our products. There are issues that need to be resolved. So let's take these other aspects into account. We need to involve scientists, for instance, think about mayors or other heroes. We need to involve instead Mr. Lecardane is an excellent contributor. I wish we could do more in the over time. We need to work as competitive scientists. Have you recently used Istat in a smart way? I don't think so. This is what we should do all together, and this is just a part of what we should actually do. Meeting together with at low temperatures and during these difficult times, it's not an easy thing. Thank you very much, Pepe. Let's now give the floor to the other, to the next speaker, Marcello, please. Okay, thank you very much. I'm glad to be the chairman of this session. There are several speakers today. We're going to talk about this relevant topic. Let me just say that we've heard some about some aspects explained by the professor who told us what the real features of this spark should be. Now it's time to understand understand peculiarities and criticalities that professor mentioned earlier. I'd like to start by giving the floor to someone. We have a group of people representing businesses that will be willing to be involved in the project, and I'd like to start from the mayor of Mussomeli, Mr. Giuseppe Catania. Thank you very much. Let's get straight to the point. Let me convey my greetings to all of you, and I'd like to thank you all, to thank De Santis and Nicoletti for their efforts and contribution to complete this pathway. This is not just a project, this is a pathway. We're trying to put together different experiences, skills, and people, associations. This is what we really need in order to reach a strategic plan for the development of the territory. We don't need just a project which may be funded, but funded before, without reaching the real goals. In order to build something strategic, we need to work step by step, avoiding shortcuts and preventing damages. To be honest, these well, the hints and the principles and criteria shared over these past 2 days are wonderful, especially Professor Damagni's presentation. who who talked about the effort of turning such a huge area into like 15,000 square meters into a place where those who visit it are aware to be in a place that is unique, which can only be found there in that territory, which may also be a group of territories. Think about the image of a strawberry field. There's not one single piece of land, but more pieces of land with several clusters stemming from the same roots. Eventually, Professor Butera's presentation focused on the interconnection between all the various elements, and I believe this is the key elements, the key aspect regarding material aspects. We have plenty of literature and work, so we know how to trace products, so we know how to come up with a trademark which identifies a product. However, I believe the real challenge regards the accreditation of immateriality, which is the fundamental point. As Professor Marshall was speaking, I was thinking about something that happened in Mosomeli some time ago. We've been working on the uh, €1 sale homes for 3 years. As of today, we have sold a few hundreds of buildings the for €1 to foreigners. We've received approximately 30,000 requests for houses. This means that there is something we can work on. The second thing I'd like to tell you is what is closely related to our challenge. This has happened with some friends of ours who came to Musameli a few months ago, and they tried to understand whether we could come up with an agreement, whether we could come to an agreement based on funds availability. At a certain point, Mrs. Maria resides in via Barcelona e Musomelli. She wasn't seeing me, I was at home, but she saw these foreign friends. She called them and she offered them a coffee. After that, we joined our meeting room. I felt a bit anxious because I was not sure they had appreciated and enjoyed the town center. And the president, as I got into the room, our partner was ready to sign the agreement. He said, "I loved the coffee, and the fact that Mrs. Maria offered us a coffee cup without even knowing me." There are two key challenges we should face which regard the park. So we should raise the awareness of our citizens about the great potential that we have in our territories, which is basically made of immaterial aspects which we take for granted. This is a part of our way of living. Because we take it for granted, we're not able to seize the potential. And this is one of the major challenges. The second challenge is what follows. So how can we spread these values and implement them within the park? This is what we should think about. Okay, so
Thank you for summarizing the Sicilian lifestyle in very briefly. So how to approach foreigners. So focusing on the, not so much on the product, but on individuals. I think Mrs. Anello is not yet with us. So now I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Ivo Cigna, Chairman of Legambiente, Environmentalist Association of Caltanissetta. He comes from the regional meeting of Legambiente, so he's here on behalf, to say, of the environmentalist movement. Thank you. First of all, thank you for inviting me. Unfortunately, I wasn't able to attend yesterday's session and the session of this morning, but we had the regional meeting of Legambiente in Caltanissetta. There were 44 sections of Legambiente from the whole of Sicily, literally from the four corners of Sicily. There was also the national president of Legambiente, and we focused on energy transition at a local level. And the topics we addressed are, in a way, connected to the issue of Mediterranean diet, because we also talk about human ecology and the need for a new development model, for a new model of society more closely linked to human ecology. I would really like to thank you for organizing this initiative. I'd like to thank Francesco and Beppe De Santis, who are the main coordinators of this initiative. I am really surprised, admired, I strongly admire the efforts you are making. This is an extraordinary project in a short-sighted world. You are taking a very far-sighted approach. Indeed, politicians, bureaucrats tend to be very short-sighted. And what we need to do is to have a long-term vision, going beyond the need, so to say, to win elections. So I think that your project really needs to go beyond this short-term perspective. But now let's talk about intangible heritage and the role of the Mediterranean diet. Now there is digitalization, so it is not possible to memorize, to store a lot of information, something that was not possible in the past. So digitalization provides an added value. I appreciated the idea of peer-based system to guarantee quality. Now, there are already a lot of accreditation models, 10 of which in the agricultural field. On behalf of Legambiente, I can tell you that we tried to have a similar system for grain. We built a chain with 7 farms, 3 mills, and 3 bakeries to make bread from an ancient variety of grain. And it was a very complicated procedure. Especially because for individuals, it may be difficult to think in more general terms. I think we have to do a lot with regard to wheat. I think we first need to defend our wheat varieties. We have a lot of varieties coming from abroad. So I really think we need to defend our varieties of wheat. We have already done quite a lot for wine, for oil. We also need to do more. For the time being, I would like to congratulate you for the wonderful initiative, and hopefully this will be successful. Thank you to Mr. Ivo Cigna from Legambiente. Clearly, Mediterranean lifestyle is also linked with beauty. And so Mrs. Lauranello will be able to tell us a lot about it, the chairwoman of the Foundation Via dei Tesori. Sorry for being a bit late and for having dirty shoes, but I'm coming from Cartabellotta, where we also collected olives and we were walking in the countryside under the rain. Now, I heard others talk about networks. Now, Le Vie dei Tesori creates a network of historical locations in Sicily, which group together 1,000 different experiences and a treasure trove of know-how. And cultural heritage. Le Vie dei Tesori was created at the University of Palermo in 2006 on the occasion of the centenary of the foundation of the 100 years since the anniversary of the foundation of the university. Now, knowledge means multiplying value. And we need to transfer know-how to the exterior, and digitalization plays a key role now. Today we are used to the Green Pass and to QR code. Now we use the QR code to create an integrated system of visits, which through a simple smartphone makes it possible to visit hundreds of different locations. Now, I won't be able to tell you all the details of our story, but before COVID, we had 300,000 visitors in slightly more than 8 days. with more than 5.5 million euros of turnover for Sicily. In 2020, we were able to carry out all of our activities even during the pandemic, thanks to hygiene measures. In 2021, we reorganized our festival and this year we involved more than 20 Sicilian towns, and we managed to involve municipalities in order to enhance promote the beauty of the locations where communities live. We created an online newspaper. There is now a dedicated tour operator, and in 2021 we launched the Borghi dei Tesori project, so project about small villages to be rediscovered. So we were able to work with 58 small municipalities, and we created a new legal entity, not a simple partnership, but an association that brings together our foundation and 58 municipalities. In the meantime, they have now become 70, and our goal is to promote networking and to promote unknown locations and cultural heritage in general. There are astronomical observatories, castles, etc., which were often unknown, underused, but together with the intangible heritage we're talking about, such as the agricultural heritage, they can become an important growth factor. The first edition of this initiative brought 12,000 visitors to the small villages which I was mentioning, and we are currently working on a number of partnerships and collaborations. For instance, this morning in Cartabellotta, we met a lot of people who began to do something very practical, collecting olives. So it's just a way to show that we cannot simply sit here and say, well, Sicily is a very rich region, and we keep on having young people living Sicily. Now, I am a Sicilian who had left the region. I swore I would never come back, but actually did. So that's already a positive step. There are now people going back. We have a project called Ho scelto il Sud, I chose the South, and we have been able to fund the first step of a project which will map a number of initiatives led by people who came back to the South and to Sicily in particular. This is something that needs to be done. We always hear about people fleeing Sicily, leaving Sicily, but we only hear about stories of resistance against mafia in difficult neighborhoods, but we don't hear much about people coming back to Sicily. And that's exactly what we're trying to do, because we need to encourage people. We're not alone. And This is how we got to discover this project of the park, which is a network of networks. And we know that networking today is the only successful thing. So I'm confident this will be a successful project. Thank you. Thank you, Mrs. Anello. And I would like to commend the activities organized by the Foundation Le Vie dei Tesori. Now, Mediterranean lifestyle means a lot. It encompasses food, activities, geographical locations, etc. Now, I'd like to invite Mr. Lirosi, chairman of the association Simenza, to take the floor and to tell us about their experience. Now, let's talk about the profit of grains. Thank you for the wonderful introduction. Good afternoon, everybody. I'd like to thank Mr. Nicoletti for inviting me and Beppe De Santis, who is the heart and soul of this project. And his presence gives me reason for hope. Now, we also heard about beauty, about potential for development, for economic and social development in Sicily. And I would like to thank Mrs. Anello for what she said. Now, I think we're having a global approach. The park is a global project. It's something we began to talk about many years ago. We started from a seed. And what we need in agriculture is to have a global vision. If Turkey decides to no longer deliver vegetables to Europe, then we have a problem. I mean, if Turkey decides to no longer deliver chickpeas, we're in trouble. Now, I think we need to attract, to raise emotions of people. I think we need to use our own language, even the regional dialect rather than Italian, to demonstrate how beautiful our region is. And if we want to talk about agriculture, we are not only talking about raw materials, about products to be farmed. This is something that farmers belonging to our association, Simenza, have been doing for quite some time. We realized that we have a treasure trove of seeds of different varieties. For instance, if you go to Trentino Alto Adige in the north, you find 20 typical recipes. In Calabria, you find maybe 50. And in Sicily, you can find 100 or even 1,000. So we have an encyclopedia of recipes, so to say, thanks to the richness of our territory. We have agricultural biodiversity and cultural diversity. This could be the beginning of a new economy. Let's make a very simple example, just to understand the importance of of Sicilia University. Durum wheat is listed in the stock exchange, but the prices are decided 6 months in advance at 6,000 kilometers away. And this is something that happens for the whole of the economy, not just for wheat. All of our production capacity is now listed on the stock exchange. But actually, this led us to lose sight of our primary role in agriculture. For instance, Sicily is really the top for wheat. A woman found out what wheat was 13,000 years ago. People stopped there, they began to till the earth. And in Sicily, we have the widest number of wheat variants in the world. But Italy in general is also rich in biodiversity. So the price of the ancient varieties of wheat is something that we decided a few decades ago, and it has always remained the same until for 15 years. But this year we had to increase it because we had to deal with the increase in price of concrete, iron, fuel. But it is only a 7–8% increase, not 100%. For a while. Together with farmers, we realized what we can do together. Starting from the beauty of fields, we need to move to the resilience of land in order to be able to adapt to changes despite the black swans. In Sicily, I think we have the potential to move towards anti-weakness, which doesn't mean that you have no weakness. Sicily is almost under attack. We have with fires, too much rain, floods, hurricanes. So Sicily is, so to say, under attack, but we have all the elements to resist this pressure. Sicily has all the elements to create something new. Now we know that there is now chaos in sprouting, but I believe that Sicily can make a leap forward and even a leap upward towards the sky. I think that if we can observe nature, we can find a lot of analogies on how to build resilient structures. The ancient did that. We can learn from universal laws. And Sicily is a place where we can see most of these universal laws at play. And that's why I really wish all the best to the project. Now, forgive me if I didn't talk about my association or agriculture more specifically. Thank you, Mr. Lirosi. I really appreciated when you said that it is necessary for us to act together. We need to create the foundations, and this is what the Park of Mediterranean Lifestyle is trying to do. I would like to mention also an association called Paesaggi di Mezzo. They also go in the fields, not to collect wheat, but to discover the beauty of landscape through and the beauty of agricultural landscapes. So I would like to invite Mr. Dagarella to talk about the association Paesaggi di Mezzo. What could be the role of this association in the park? Well, thank you, Francesco. Thank you, Beppe. You are crazy visionaries, even crazier than the founders of Paesaggi di Mezzo, which was created by 3 founders, myself, Ivo Gini, and Fabio Di Francesco. We tried to promote the rediscovery of central Sicily, and we want to promote the landscape value, the agricultural value of Sicily, which is also which could be a tourist destination. Together with Mrs. Anello, I'm also a crazy Sicilian who decided to come back to Sicily after spending many years in Ravello, near Naples, on the Amalfi Coast. And there I understood how to build networks. Networks also of small villages, and that's what we're trying to do also with our association Paesaggi di Mezzo. We are trying to enhance, promote the value of our products. Every time I came back to my land of origin, I was always I always used to say, I was always told, well, you live in a wonderful area, the Amalfi Coast. That's because we in Sicily, we tend to underestimate our own beauty. So we tend to recognize the beauty of other areas and not to recognize the beauty of our own region. Our association is trying to promote the area of Caltanissetta. We organized a number of initiatives with the support of the municipality of Caltanissetta, and we organized 4 tours, one about the flavor of wheat in Borgo Santa Rita, then there is the project with the most beautiful ancient villages of Italy, where we're going to take tourists to experience, to make an experience, because nowadays tourists want to feel emotions. They don't want to feel like objects to be taken from one location to the other, but they want to experience something. And I made the presentations of these 4 tours to 450 buyers, and the first thing they told me, well, you're a nice guy, but if you had talked about churches and monuments, I would have replied, that doesn't interest me. But the fact that I presented tours based on experiences for tourists is something that is interesting for buyers. For instance, we're going to take tourists in the Madonie Park, where they will see sheep and the cutting and the shearing of sheep. We're going to work in collaboration with the municipality of Mussomeli. They will visit the castle there. We will take the tourist to a farm, to a local farm, and we, in our activity, we discovered a lot of small farms, of small activities that could be interesting for tourists, because there are a lot of small entrepreneurs who would like to emerge. They would like to grow and they need someone to guide them. Now, I took a few notes. First of all, I'd like to tell you that yesterday I really appreciated the speech by Carlo, who was able to identify a very important topic. I took a couple of notes. I think we should talk about an integrated tourist system, because in order to attract significant tourist flows, it is not enough to have a primary product such as cultural heritage, monuments, beautiful landscape, but it is now indispensable to attract tourists through the involvement of the local stakeholders. What we need today is a culture of hospitality, the construction of relations with tourists through the customization of services. So basically, we need to provide emotions to make tourists feel welcome. There is something important we need to understand. There is a distinction between hospitality and welcoming tourists. We can also organize events, large events, and we can learn from, for instance, from Torino, which currently ranks third for tourist flow in Italy, thanks to the organization of major events. And I'd like to conclude with a few data. The perception of Sicily by tourists, the strengths perceived by tourists is that Sicily is the best known brand after Rome. Sicily is considered one of the most beautiful regions in the world. It is perceived as one of the most important territories in the world for its cultural heritage and long history. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Mr. Zagarella. Let me add something. We have an example of two associations dealing with tourism. Vie Levi dei Tesori, which is a very solid association, Paesaggi di Mezzo, which is a new association dealing with a very similar topic. This is the core of a network. This is not about we should cooperate all together. Co-petition, this is an English term. This is a moment in which there is a sort of competition after having consolidated system. So first the system should be consolidated, and then it can be more competitive. I'd like to invite Ms. Susanna Cristina, President of CORAI, Territorio, Sviluppo and Cultura, to deliver her speech and have her say thank you very much. I'm glad to be a part of this project. I represent a cultural company which was established in 2011, which turned into a social company in 2018. We're a group of young entrepreneurs who tried not to leave their country of origin. We were trained by Sebastiano Tusa through a second cycle academic program, and this is what the name of our association comes from. Corai. So this name conveys the goal of our mission. We deal with territorial marketing through cultural projects. We create experience that can be shared, and we try to highlight those aspects which are not known to everybody. We've been working on the ancient towns of Sicily, including Sambuca di Sicilia, with which we've been carrying out several projects. Another fundamental topic we are dealing with is the pathways, and we are part of a network working on pathways. It is a mix of very diverse projects and initiatives. Keywords related to these wonderful days are network, protection, sustainability, and material and immaterial heritage, cultural heritage, which are the core of our activities. Let me provide my small contribution to this topic, which is also part of this park. We've been carrying out a project related to pathways, which was created through the Polycora project from the in cooperation with the Archbishop of Palermo, and it is part of the J mission. We did it through a local laboratory based on the involvement of the local society. This also involved the Rosalie pathway, which needed to be boosted. We received the support of local authorities. We involved 15 municipalities from the Sicilian hinterland, in the provinces of Agrigento and Caltanissetta. We've also launched some training sessions for youth from these towns, including Corleone, where a cooperative was established thanks to the funds provided by the Archbishop of Monreale. And also, I like what Professor Marsh said, even though we're trying to do our utmost to carry out these projects. Cora also involved 15 municipalities from the Itinerarium Rosalie project. We wanted to involve municipalities which were closely related to this initiative. We also tried to create and establish platforms and new initiatives. I loved what Professor Marsh said at the very beginning of this day. I talked about the idea of strategic networks. For sure, we need a strong governance and a strong coordination because such a complex system is not easy to manage, but it is fundamental, and this is definitely the solution. We've tried to carry on despite the pandemics and the lockdown, and we've established a rope rate. Professor Marsh also mentioned some other important aspects which make me think of another project we've collaborated in, so which puts together networks, real networks, which was for us a way to launch a project which is completely different, but which is still based on promotion of African crafts, artifacts and works of arts. We've tried to launch a project which could link our culture and African cultures. For instance, Ghana cultures, spreading multiple cultural meanings, which identifies the cultural identity of two cultures with asked some Sicilian artisans to create some products using some African fabrics. This cultural project turned into a commercial project, and it was a way to tell something new to our society, to tell how to tell something about a new cultural product, including its immaterial aspects. This was possible thanks to skills, abilities, and a network between completely different countries, which tell about their own stories and cultural background. I do wish that all of that can be also implemented within this Spark project very soon. Thank you very much, Mrs. Cristina, for your kind contribution. I would like to give the floor to Mr. Carmelo Nicotra, who is the Director of Wheat Growing Experimental Consortium for Sicily of Caltagirone. Are you online, Mr. Nicotra? Meanwhile, I'd like to say congratulations to all of the participants who joined this event. You've been very punctual and you provided us with very accurate hints and contributions. Thank you. Please, Mr. Nicotra, switch on your microphone. Please, Mr. Nicotra. I wish I could be there rather than being connected remotely. I'd like to thank all of you, especially Councillor Tominelli from the municipality of Caltagirone. I must say that I've known about the park only a couple of months ago, and I thought that the wheat growing experimental consortium may have been involved. Those who preceded me tried to preserve old, ancient wheat over the past decades. We've tried to preserve these products, and which is part of our Sicilian cultural heritage. This is a sort of a treasure of the Mediterranean. We have 52 wheat varieties with the 100 populations. Sicily is actually a continent. Therefore, we have taken samples from the hills and the mountains of Sicily. This is a very precious treasure, and we are extremely in favor of the creation of this park, so we should adapt to the Mediterranean lifestyle and become an example to be followed worldwide. We have such a great biodiversity, which is a heritage we should preserve. Ancient wheat can provide us with very precise answers. They are sustainable, therefore they're perfect for organic agriculture. They are very healthy. They are easy to digest. And they do so that and they revolve around mankind. What Professor Jess said was fundamental. We need research. We need research in order to achieve the development and boost our economy. And do so that the local youth will remain here. We have been dealing with two projects on ancient wheats. We hope to become able to certify our wheat. Will soon be in Floresta to talk about bufale, which is a variety of wheat. We will donate this project to the city of Floresta, where the conference will be held. And we hope to encourage the locals, especially the youth, to make these products a part of their future and develop their territory. Have you heard? Okay. Thank you very much, Mr. Nicotra, for your contribution. Francesco, we've realized that 3 pillars were not enough. We needed 4 pillars, and now it is definitely more stable. So let's thank Professor March, who told us, who suggested that we should have created a fourth pillar in order to make our system more stable. Is Toti Piscopo there? Okay, let's give the floor to Toti Piscopo. Okay, good afternoon. I apologize for not being there. I did not want to miss this opportunity. Let me say congratulations for your strong commitment. I'm extremely glad to be here. We had the opportunity to gather so many distinguished people, which is something really positive. Let me convey my greetings to Mrs. Maria, whom I've never met, but she was described as a very nice and kind Sicilian woman who unconsciously taught us how to implement our marketing strategies. She offered a coffee cup, and as she did this, she basically provide us an idea of what welcoming and accommodating people actually means. If we take into account this need, we will manage to boost our tourism. As a newspaper, we've been working for about 17 years. Ours is one of the first online newspapers to be established in Sicily. We represent the brand of a communication company, which is Logos, and I've been the CEO of this company 30 years now. I must say that over the past 10 years, despite several difficulties, we've tried to recover we had to deal with terrorism over the past years, with mafia attacks as well, and Sicily has been considered as one of the most clicked researched regions. Our goal is that of finding a way to solve some criticalities related to our territory. Sometimes our territory felt abandoned by politicians and decision makers, but we've tried to do our utmost to, for instance, restore our buildings, turning them into bed and breakfast and touristic accommodations, which gave a strong boost to our local tourism, and it created new employment opportunities. So many people restored their properties, and they managed to create a new business. Even in towns, in small towns, which are not far from the main cities, big cities. This gave a strong contribution to our territory identity. Sicilians fell in love once again with their land. I believe that the park, especially after the pandemic, may be a very important resource for our land. Tourism is a very strong industry. We need to focus on a system which is able to give a strong and positive impact to our region through a good planning, communication, marketing strategies, and support to commercialization. Individual tourism keeps landing in Sicily despite difficulties. However, organized tourism and international tourism is definitely stronger, and it is made by Congress. Tourism, it also involves school tourism.
PIL praticamente che è andata giusta, insomma, no? Sul piano ovviamente della ripresa. Dobbiamo sicuramente tornare
We
alla
must get together through one single vision. What do we expect from our touristic Sicily? We need this must be a collective union, not Mrs. Christina's vision or someone else's vision. We need to reach a collective vision where each piece of our territory should be turned into a solid brand which is represented by Sicily. It goes without saying that not all of the territories may rely on Congress tourism.
messaggio di riflessione che ho voluto fare insieme a voi, insomma, per quel che vale.
I just wanted to share my opinion, my thoughts.
Il nostro rimane sempre il brand più affermato, dico, noi siamo una fra le 3 testate che si posiziona.
Ours is one of the most relevant newspapers, tourism newspapers at a national level, and ours is a tool that gives visibility to any collective or individual initiatives. If we work together and if we cooperate, we will reach better results. Thank you for inviting me, and enjoy the rest of the day. I'm sure that Giuseppe, Francesco, and I will be able to summarize all of this content for our readers. Thank you very much. Thank you, Toti Episcopo. Thank you for your availability. I'd like to give the floor to Diego Plato now, who has just reached us here. Is the president of Slow Food of Caltanissetta, which is a very important association for our Mediterranean diet.
Buonasera a tutti. Da noi i titoli altisonanti non ci sono.
Good evening, everybody. Actually, don't call me chairman of Slow Food, just legal representative.
L'ha fatta nascere a livello italiano prima e mondiale successivamente.
Now, Slow Food was founded with a very specific philosophy in mind. And the section of Caltanissetta promoted a meeting between the producers of ancient wheat varieties with bakeries, and they reached an agreement, an economic agreement, on the sale of wheat for ancient wheat varieties. And the project carried out in Caltanissetta was taken as an example for the whole region. And actually, the philosophy of the project we are carrying out is to create a communion, so to say, of different bodies. Now, this is probably a problem we have in Sicily. We don't have the same spirit of cooperation that Emilia Romagna has. So the rediscovery of some products of our land is something that we are not fully aware of. And that is actually the goal of Slow Food. We want to rediscover products that had been forgotten. And this applies to wheat varieties, cold cuts, all the richness of our land. I also appreciated the speech of the professor who mentioned the importance of Sicilian dialect. Now, we very often organize a number of initiatives, and we adapt to other. We tend to prefer foreign terms, in particular English terms. But I think that even for our initiatives, festivals, I think it is important to preserve our tradition, not to adapt to others, but rather to promote what we have. And our language, Sicilian in particular. So we need to make this additional step, believing in our traditions, even at a language level. Thank you. Thank you, legal representative of Slow Food in Caltanissetta. When we speak of Mediterranean diet, we cannot forget the itineraries existing in central Sicily. One of them is the greenway of the Solfare, that is the sulfur mines, in particular the railway lines which had to connect to the sulfur mines of the area. Good evening. First of all, I'd like to thank Beppe De Santis and Francesco Nigoletti for giving us hope. Our association was created 2 years ago. Roberto Gambino also took part in our initiative, and we had some problems to launch our project. But we then share a common, we now share a common hope. Now, here I feel a bit like I'm at home because I not only took part in the greenway of sulfur mines, but also because I work on for a Sicilian company on wheat varieties.
Io rientro dalla Germania dopo 27 anni.
Like Laura, I also came back to Sicily. I came back 15 years ago after living and working in Germany. And I would like to focus more and more on the fact that there is some resistance. What is really brave is not to come back, but to stay. When you compare a country to the other, you need to consider the richness of your land of origin. When you leave, you realize how rich your land of origin is. When I worked in new companies, I found it always difficult to introduce new ideas, new proposals. Some saw teamwork as a risk because they wanted to preserve, because people were afraid of losing their jobs. Now, I'm a member of the board of the greenway of Zolfare, the sulfur mines, with the president who is very enlightened, so to say. Now, we involve our members, and our goal as a board is not to become a tourist guide, but simply to make little known places known. So what we want to do is to encourage schools to organize school trips to the sulfur mines. Maybe not the smallest kids, but the students of middle and high schools may be interested. I think we need to educate our own students to understand the importance of our own products, our local products. I mean, when I was in Germany, I was looking forward to receiving our mandarins, our other local products. Now it is easier to reach foreign countries like Germany. So maybe people who live here now take these local products for granted, but it is important to raise their awareness of the beauty, quality of our products. And we need to resist and to discover the richness of our region. Now, it's not like we know everything, but we have a rich know-how. I heard a lot of people speak of union, working together, having the right skills and know-how yesterday and today. And this is something that really encourages me to stay and to fight for the beauty of our region. Thank you, Antonella Corrado.
Sì, certo.
Now I'd like to give the floor to Francesco Cancellieri, from the chairman of the association Assocea Messina. First of all, thank you. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to speak.
Sì, benissimo, ok, prego.
Okay, now we can hear you. Good evening. I'd like to thank the municipality of Caltanissetta, Mr. Nicoletti, the councillor, and you as the moderator. I'd like to say hi to all participants there. I'd like to start with a question. Why does an association from Messina want to participate in this network? Well, because our association, which is a small environmental culture center, wants to share our expertise in environmental education. We work with Mr. Lirosi and the association Simenza in the agricultural field. We also work with another network of municipalities which strive to protect maquis. Now, we are experts in environmental education, and we are going to organize an event together with Mr. Nicotra and his center. What can we provide to the park? Our passion for environmental education, and in particular, our passion of working with students. So we would like to make our own contribution by helping spread the values of the park in schools. I think it is important to share what we heard today with students. Now, I've been very brief. I would like to thank everyone, and our association, together with the Association of the Municipalities for the Protection of Maquis, are willing to collaborate with you and to provide our own services. Well, you've been very brief, but extremely clear, and thank you for offering your services. Now, I'd like to give the floor to Luca Micciche from a local association here in Caltanissetta, the Pro Loco Association. I'll be brief. I would also like to thank Mr. Nicoletti and Mr. De Santis for the initiative, and I'd like to thank you for bringing together so many different entities here in Caltanissetta. There are a lot of local entities, not only from the area of Caltanissetta, but from the whole Sicilian region. So we are dreaming big. This is not a small-scale project, but something that will last for a long time, something that can help our area have a broader attire, broader attraction power. Now, what does the Pro Loco do in Caltanissetta? Well, the first thing is to promote, of course, the beauties, the richness of Caltanissetta. But the first thing we do is to take them to a cafeteria. Now, this may sound a bit trivial, because we want them to taste the desserts, the pastries of the old town, because a monument, a church, a museum is something that you can visit very quickly. Maybe you can check details also online, but a pastry, a dessert is something that you have taste immediately, that you have to eat immediately. Pastries, but also any other typical dish. We work with a lot of cafeterias and restaurants, so we suggest to tourists that they eat not the typical, the classic dishes, but we invite them to taste, to try out our own typical products, dishes with vegetables or desserts. Now, we have a very strong tradition here in Caltanissetta in desserts. Since the time of the Moncada, we had masters in the art of pastry who left, who created a very rich heritage. And we have always preserved this tradition, and we are trying to protect and spread this tangible and intangible heritage. Now, we previously heard about intangible assets, but it could be a simple recipe that is handed down from one generation to the other. And that's very important oral heritage that should not be forgotten. Some time ago, I had some interviews. I interviewed some old miners in Somatino, near Caltanissetta, and they not only talked about their lives in mines, but they also told me what kind of food they ate. Now, it was very poor food. If we were in Milan, in Paris, in Berlin, they would be part of a tradition of dishes which come from a poor tradition, but which would cost a lot of money, like 30 euro. Today, we are losing some of the poor traditional dishes which are no longer cooked. We are about to forget them, and this is something that we should avoid, because it is part of our bond with the territory. We need to continue to preserve this bond over time, and not just because we're here for this project, but because this is something we have to preserve for future generations. One of the previous speakers said that schools should go and visit these places. And indeed, I believe that we need to train students. We need to educate them, educate younger generations, so that they can hand down this intangible heritage to the following generations. We need people to specialize in agriculture. Um, we need more than just entrepreneurs. We also need specialist workers who can improve agricultural techniques. modern agriculture. There are now new tools, digital tools that can be used also in the agricultural field. And it is also important to work on the marketing of products. There are e-commerce platforms that can be used. Any kind of communication tool can be used to go beyond our region and market our products. Now, if I go to the groceries, I can find Brazilian oranges, not just a Brazilian variant, but oranges which actually come from Brazil. And I don't understand why. There are some Sicilian companies which don't sell in Sicily, but which sell in the rest of Italy. They are not able of selling their products because of competition from outside. This is something we need to fix in order to have a short production chain. We need to market our products in our own territory. And we need to work with young generations so that they can continue our activities. Thank you, Mr. Michike. Thank you for your very wise words. I think Mr. Nicoletti would like to say something.
You talked about traditional recipes, which are parts of our Mediterranean lifestyle. As a matter of fact, in cooperation with the municipality of Caltanissetta, we've been working on strategies and we've moved forward. We seized the opportunity and we've supported this initiative. The mayor mentioned this earlier this morning. We won a competition. We have been chosen among 20 towns at the national level for our strategies. That was a public call. And as promoters of a park, we moved forward. In order to spread the idea and the project of our park based on two phases. We had our project funded and we called it Mediterranean Cuisine project. We've launched a project, a Mediterranean project, which is based on this important concept. It is a physical space which can be observed and seen through our traditional recipes and food. Nowadays, some of our traditional dishes are cooked through this brand new electronic appliances. We included a variety of trainings, presentations of producers, consumers, educational initiatives, including cuisine and cooking labs involving schools and students. Just because our dishes represent a precious value, therefore we've created a new container, a new set of ideas which will soon be spread all over the territory. We know that This is one of our strongest points, especially for tourists coming from all over the world. Tourists and visitors are interested in learning how to cook our traditional food, which is a way to improve and to spread our products. We've also launched, created and launched some initiatives in collaboration with the Rotary Club that included a book on traditional food. UNESCO is also focusing on the idea of on the importance of cooking together and make it sustainable. This is another project that we've launched through thanks to the cooperation of a center of a new cultural center which will be established in Sicily. We moved forward and let me add one more thing before leaving the floor to our colleague. We've also taken into account the need for a tool which we'll discuss more in depth on December 4th in cooperation with some of the representatives of the Sicilian academies and universities, including Professor Lagalla and other distinguished guests. We need to exploit our territories in a better way. There are plenty of resources and our soils are full of resources, and it is a shame that our youth is moving abroad. Many young people move to Milan or abroad instead of promoting our resources. We need to boost agriculture while avoiding the use of pesticides and train the youth so that they will become very good professionals, high quality professionals. There's something we need to change and which is currently not working. We need all of the tools allowing us to reach our goals. We need to turn from words into actions. We have a theoretical approach which should be turned into a more practical approach. Our youngsters should be able to bet on these resources and believe in them. Even educational programs are very highly qualifying. Thank you very much, and I'd like to give the floor to Mr. Antonino Messina from Sicily Island. Can you hear me? Yes, we can hear you perfectly. Thank you very much. Good afternoon. Michelangelo Lomonaco was the president of the ATS Sicily Island, was supposed to be here, but due to unexpected events, he was not able to join you. Unfortunately, I wasn't not able to join you either, but I'm glad to be here remotely. I'll be brief. Let me convey my greetings to all of you, first of all, before getting straight to the point. We're going to talk about the requirements that we need. ATS, Sicilia Island, was established according to 683 provision. The idea was that of putting together some local territories in order to implement some new ways of promoting our land. Thanks to ATS, we managed to create 7 touristic districts, 3 territorial districts, including Telselinunte, Belice, the Valley of the Temples, Sicani Mountains, Valle dei Platani, as well as 3 thematic itineraries, one on Baroque style, and we were glad to be supported by the Association of Sicily and Casa del Fanciullo of Sicilian CEI. We aimed to create a strong territorial system which worked as a sort of network of UNESCO sites and 5 districts, while turning them into some sort of access points for the territory. We tried to implement some other services in order to attract more touristic flows. They were supposed to be starting points for a wider action. The real goal is that of creating networks, like we said earlier. We've also included this concept within our project while creating cultural opportunities within the territory, which were able to promote the UNESCO sites. We were thinking about creating a network of immaterial identities. Beppe De Santis presented his project and we followed him. We joined him 2 years ago. We started to speak about it, and we've joined this project. We are now partners of this project. Regarding requirements, well, I'm a technician. I've appreciated all of your deep analysis regarding the Mediterranean lifestyle park, regarding requirements. Well, this is this is a very complex issue. The park project is made of 11 networks, including some sub-networks involving several associations, the public and private stakeholders.
Come dire, I requisiti per ciascuno di loro per comprendere e omogeneizzare il discorso.
Finding the right requirements is rather complex. And for sure, the project presented by Professor Marsh should be a starting point to better analyze our goals. We may divide these goals into sub-goals through a deeper analysis, which we should probably do. But through that document, it will be easier to focus on the major issues and make the park project evolve. Thank you very much.
Grazie a lei. Con questo intervento abbiamo completato la serie.
Thank you very much. This was the last presentation for today. Now I'd like to invite Mr. De Santis, who's the protagonist of this day. Everybody was very punctual, and I hope that Mr. De Santis will be as punctual as them.
Allora, vabbè, è fantastico. Allora, tante cose si possono dire bellissime.
There's plenty of things we may say. Let's get started. Between November and December,
con un po' di dolori che si aggiungono, no?
Through some difficulties and depression, you know that I'm an optimistic person. However, we can meet, we're meeting for 5 days, for 5 full days, in the morning and in the afternoon, involving other colleagues connected remotely. Some hundreds of people are somewhere around us, And this is the point. We are here, we are meeting. We're not postponing anything.
Ho fatto queste cose bellissime, adesso vabbè, parcheggio un po', poi in primavera. Ecco. Per certi versi bisogna fare meglio, di più e con più gioia.
We need to do more and in a joyful way.
La speranza della vita, insomma.
We need to be optimistic.
La questione economica. Ecco. L'altro giorno, l'abbiamo ripreso tante volte, meravigliosa riunione degli amici strepitosi dei
A
boss.
few days ago, we met some of our friends from the associations of most of the ancient villages, of the most ancient villages. We were talking about depopulation regarding mountainous areas. Sicily has lost quite a few hundreds of young people over the past decades, a few hundred thousands. The first issue is the fact that we are meeting in person. When I listen to each of you while running the risk of getting infected, I enjoy greeting our guests because these are the best practices in such types of communities, in my opinion. And what is important is that we're trying to create a system of decision makers. We need to meet and they make the best out of each of us. For instance, the great Laura Nello, she's a journalist. She's very smart. She's such a beauty. She's the Joan of Arc of beauty. In her humble text, she talked about economic aspects as well. He's staring at me and smiling. This is important. Each of us is able to do extraordinary things, and we need to be mutually aware of this. I want to know everything about you, and as I say this, I'm not thinking about how many girlfriends you have, but I do want to know the good things of each of you.
Oggi noi abbiamo messo la nostra narrazione.
Today we talked about true citizens, true people. We mentioned Mrs. Maria, and Mrs. Maria may be compared to a distinguished scientist, and we are a group of boys and girls. We're sharing ideas, we're working together, we're sharing kindness, generosity, ideas, and this is the key point. Nobody is to blame for globalization. For instance, it is just a historical phenomenon. When we have 330,000 multinationals, which we need to take into account. We need to reform, we need some new reforms. Earlier, we were talking about junk food, especially about a book on junk food. It is important to read books to learn more. Sometimes it is difficult to measure economic resources. Nobody is to blame. We just need to face such difficult situations. This is the Great Sicily, which is larger than as large as 10 European countries, and we need to give, it's time to give our contribution to this land. A huge parts of disasters are related to poor agriculture, that related to the green revolution. We need a revolution. Well, it is easy to say, well, we should do this, we should reach this goal through a true conversion. There are difficult moments to face. Seven or 8 years ago, I thought that it was time to talk about food again. We need resources, beauty, and then we have a crisis, a long-lasting crisis, and we need a regeneration. We need to regenerate our institutions. Please come over here. Let's do something together. Let's try to improve the situation. A park is also a metaphor to put all of these aspects together based on cooperation, respect. It is a sort of a fair game. We need to work together. And I ask, I may call Beppe and draw a list of to-do things we need to gather together some people, some experts, and work together. We have no alternatives. Then, if there is a draft law at the regional assembly, let's make it come true. Let's approve of it. Let's implement it. We should start from the middle of Sicily, from central Sicily, which has plenty of resources. We have no provinces anymore. Therefore, let's put the whole central areas together. Cicciaiello said he's ready to help us. Here we have wonderful mayors like Giuseppe. We can do a lot of things. This is our dream project for a new development mode of Sicily. This is what other people should do, but we all representing each other. I've wasted 7 or 8 years of my life at the regional parliament, but like Piscopo said 30 years ago, we need something which puts us together. Maybe the idea of a planetary park, maybe through a marketing and communication strategies. We're giving the world a gift, which also includes our language. I may mention several sentences. English. This is something we need to carry out together. The municipality of Caltanissetta, the mayor the Commission are at our disposal. But this project does not match election projects. The leader for one of our projects was a philosopher. He was chosen as the coordinator of one of the projects. The town of Giare was also involved. Then we may win. But we should all be some sort of prophets to win this competition. In Italy, we have funds, but funds are not used in a fair way. If you take a look at the data concerning 7 or 8 years ago, you will realize that we need a vision, we need a strong strategy, we need a plan, we need partnerships, which is something that goes beyond political strategies. We're making some serious choices involving many of us. Beppe, by the way, after these 2 days, we'll feel richer and full of ideas to be implemented within our park project. But I do not want to act as a bad chairman. However, I would like to give the floor to those who are giving us the opportunity to be here. I'm sorry, I'm going to conclude my speech. Let's keep calm and focus on our goals. We will we will create a network of plans altogether, and we will build a strong system which will be appreciated by the whole decision makers.
Conte, non lo so, Conte di Monferrato. Ok? Quindi, cioè fare classe dirigente e fare propaganda a tutti i lavori.
We need a leading class. Laura does not know that I'm referring to her as the Sicilian Joan of Arc. Now, we need to promote our resources. Okay, that's the end of my speech.
Era un colpo benevolo, però dai.
Grazie. No, era il mio semplicemente un saluto di fine lavori temporaneamente.
Well, I'd just like to conclude I want to thank Beppe for his thoughts. Now, it's always he has a rich imagination, but he's also a practical person. He is right when he says that there is a lot of money that is available right now. And what we are implementing is a strategic project that could allow us to channel resources in the right direction. Because the risk is spending money in an inefficient way. But we don't want to spend money inefficiently. In central Sicily, we need resources and we need to spend them well for infrastructure and everything else. And the park project helps us use resources efficiently. We need to be united. And I'd like to go back to what Francesco said a few moments ago. Now we have a roadmap the area where the Mediterranean lifestyle park will be created will also be funded by the Ministry of the Interior. So we have already found the location. And if you have the right projects, you can get the funds. And if we are able to coordinate all the municipalities, I'm confident that we will be successful. I would like to thank all participants of the yesterday and today, and we'll meet again on Thursday, Friday, and Saturday for the conclusions. Thank you very much.